Welcome and thank you for joining today's webinar with our premier partner Linga on one of the most asked topics on accelerating SAP migrations through automation. To learn about the best practice and the value SAP customers see when running their SAP workload on AWS. My name is Thomas Xander. I'm the EMEA partner lead for SAP. Actually, I'm helping partner and customer to successfully migrate and run SAP applications in AWS Cloud. With me is Ricardo Casanovas, the CTO and co-founder of Linga, to share with you the insights and how you gain quick value from utilizing automation with AWS. Also, Guillermo Torres, the solution architect and technical expert with Linga, to guide you through a live demonstration to get a real touch. Let's have a look at the agenda. First, short introduction on AWS, what we do and some customer outcomes before I hand over to Ricardo to talk about automation benefits, so value for customers, to discuss some SAP migration phases in the context of running it in the AWS cloud. Important to share with you the automation quick wins you will get, but also the challenges performing a SAP migration, data transfer on downtime, testing, and finally, but important, the cost. And to see all the theory in practice with Guillermo doing a demo on how you utilize DevOps methodology for SAP deployments in the cloud. Then to get to the conclusion and what we have heard and seen so far. Okay, so let's set the stage first, and I want to share with you why all SAP customers consider the cloud for their mission-critical SAP workload. So if we look back over the years, we have seen some common reasons and key drivers that customer move SAP workload or landscapes to AWS, and why customer engage with AWS and with our competent partners around their SAP needs. One, we have heard and hear from Ricardo, cost reduction, right? The impact on cost. So it's definitely a reason, but it's not anymore the main driver. The main driver is also around digital transformation, including SAP S/4. And you face this challenge sooner than later, but I assume you discuss it these days already. If you look at agility and staff productivity, it's another very common business driver where customers, with the help of partners, using AWS as their innovation platform of choice. SAP customers typically report benefits like faster time to market, increased speed of innovation as their staff become significantly more productive, usually leveraging AWS automation and accelerators like AWS Quick Start. Another topic is data and analytics, because we hear from our SAP customer that they struggle to get the most from the data they need to gather and analyze. With S3 and Linga has definitely tailored solutions for that. But what we hear very often, customer ask us how to reduce the HANA footprint. Another topic, and that's definitely for those who run and manage their own data center and manage their technical depths, they want to retire and get off it. Improved performance and auto-scaling. That's one of the reasons as well, right? And we hear customers, and I will share with you some customer outcomes on performance improvement, only by migrating as they are with lift and shift to AWS. Last but not least, definitely improve security and resilience. So be more secure and secure in the cloud that you can ever be on-premise. So look on the past and history on what we're doing. So we work and how we work with SAP. SAP and AWS have been innovating on the cloud for over a decade, actually since 2008. And honestly, there is no compression algorithms for experience. We went through all the learnings together with our customers and also with our loyal partner SAP on what's needed to run secure SAP workload on and in the cloud. SAP and AWS have a relationship that dates back, as I said, over a decade, when SAP first became an AWS customer in 2008. And they went to the cloud for the same reason you most likely do it as well. To get the flexibility, agility, and instant access to servers to run the SAP workload. Since then, we were partnering together to create many industry-leading breakthroughs and continuous stream of co-innovation on behalf of SAP customers. So we listen to customer work backwards. And few examples. In 2012, we were supporting fully migrating SAP workloads in AnyDB. By 2015, we had already hundreds of customers running SAP on any database on AWS. In 2016, we launched the X1 instance with a 2 terabyte in memory, in particular for HANA. And this launch was done in San Francisco with the board member Bernd Leugert on stage with AWS as the first infrastructure as service provider who can provide that kind of instance type to support a demanding HANA environment. And this was also around 2016. I said we really saw the adoption take off when we released the X1 instance. These were the only HANA offering that time certified for 2 terabyte scale up or 15 terabyte scale out. Customer really liked that. In 2017, we continued to launch the X1 Extended or E version with 4 terabyte and memory and with a scale out of 50 terabyte. The X1E instance for 4 terabyte scale out and 50 terabyte scale out accommodates over 95% of SAP customers today. That's what SAP told us in doing the analysis. We also announced certain tools and mechanisms like FAST. We partnered with SAP and our partners like Linga to create a FAST program with SAP supporting tools for quick migration to AWS, for AnyDB to HANA. At that time, we also supported SAP Cloud Platform. We began hosting the SAP Cloud Platform, where today we continue to have the most global and service coverage, looking at how SAP use and present the SAP Cloud Platform. In 2018, thousands of customers we have, and by 2018 we had thousands of customers running SAP on AWS. At that time, we announced the high memory launch, the EC2 high memory launch. This is the Elastic Compute Cloud instance family. And that's the most demanding customer push us to still go bigger. So we launched this high memory instance for 6, 9, 12, 18, and 24 terabyte family. But I will talk about this. In 2019, we don't stop, as you can see. In 2019, we announced the 100 terabyte BW and 48 terabyte S4 support. Both continue to be the only native cloud-enabled offerings available today. So also we also announced solution space. This is an AWS-specific area where we work with partners to put together and package solutions which helps customer to digest and leverage directly, like S4 move and use, or the S4 quick start we launched at that time as well. So SAP as a customer, also in addition to all the co-innovation we just discussed, and I showed you, we continue to see SAP rely on AWS to power other offerings, like SAP Cloud offering run on AWS, like Concur, the SAP Cloud Platform, Qualtrics, the recent acquisitions, or the SAP US Government Cloud, the NS2, using AWS GovCloud region to comply to the restrictive requirements. As you see, we are continuing at the AWS pace of innovation. We continue to listen to AWS customer and create new offerings at a very aggressive pace, which mirrors the AWS pace of innovation. So today, we have definitely very impressive customer stories to tell. There are more than 5,000 active AWS customers running SAP on AWS, and over half of these have deployed SAP HANA-based solutions. They have moved to AWS and are getting more from SAP investments than ever before. A few examples. In the manufacturing industry, Sumitomo Chemical out of APAC reduced their processing time by 40%. Going to Europe, in the CPG industry with Heineken, they estimated that their 42 terabyte system on AWS is half of the cost of their 6 terabyte system they used to have on premise. Another example, and definitely Ricardo can lean in that, it's a utility, Engie, reduced IT costs by 50%. And this is also a definitely benefit of automation, big time driver for cost reduction. Last, oil and gas. BP, a large customer, SAP customers, all in AWS. With more than 3,000 applications and 7,000 servers, including over 65 complex environments run on AWS. With this many customers running on AWS, we have learned a lot over the years and continue to roll out the learnings back into our offering, you will see. Not only customer tells us and gives us feedback on what we can do and how we improve and how we're doing. It's the research companies as well. I don't like to quote Gartner or the other big firms because this is known that AWS is seen and perceived as the market leader in infrastructure as a service. But it's more important for you as a SAP customer how research firm like ISG, who fully focus on HANA, sees the supplier world providing infrastructure as a service. And as you can see on the right-hand side, they rate us very high, not only on the chart, but in particular on the conclusion. Because we have an extensive partner ecosystem, and Linga is one of the representatives, and happy to co-present with Ricardo on this webinar on it. But also that we have the one of the most comprehensive and feature-rich cloud platforms. And I will right now share with you then a little bit more insights on this as well. So that helps you also to get more confident how market sees us. And ISG actually reached out to customers and talk to them and get a feedback what they're doing and what their perception are and the drivers around it. So the most choice what we have today is definitely around the instance. So if it's about innovation and we innovate in a fast pace, if you look at HANA, we have in particular for SAP HANA workload, in particular the most comprehensive instance family available, which suits your need. From a small 200 plus megabyte up to 24 terabyte environment, you can support, or you get support for your SAP workload. The AWS portfolio of SAP certified HANA instances is truly unique to AWS, as we have more supported cloud native instance by far. Supporting the most demanding customer means you have to support the largest, most complex one. And I gave you example on BP, definitely not small, or Enel in Italy, a very high demanding customer as well, like Heineken is. AWS can go up to 24 terabyte, as I said, in a scale up, and 100 terabyte scale out with HANA Cloud Native instance, all certified to take care of your SAP workload and planning. Also, we introduced AWS high memory instance types are truly unique. This was last year in March 2019, when we announced another breakthrough with SAP. This announcement when we launched the world's first 100% software-defined scale-out architecture for HANA that supports S/4HANA customer to incrementally scale up to 48 terabyte. And this was impressive to see for SAP and foremost for customers. All these solutions you see on this slide have the same cloud attributes AWS customer have come to expect from us, including, let's see, 100% cloud native. So this platform integrates into all of our plus 180 AWS services we have, or being elastic and grow as you go. Start with 1 terabyte, 4 terabyte, move to 9 terabyte, scale up, or 24 terabyte. To do this, when and if you need it. It's not based on some projection of a regional option to support. It's actually just you switch in the console to your new need, and the system adjusted as you need it. It's highly secure. This is not a co-location approach. It's pure everything happened in the cloud. This is now on the same fabric, leveraging the same availability and region option to support high availability and disaster recovery. Without going in detail, the regions and the availability zones we have and coverage on this planet, it's unprecedented and gives the customer resilience as they need it. I mentioned why SAP NS2 government cloud runs on AWS. This is one reason out of that, it's secure. Pricing is one of the most interesting aspects. Yes, for those of you familiar with procuring servers, you know appliance hardware, that the pricing typically increase exponentially for larger system. In particular, when you look at the high memory demand for HANA, because AWS 100 is 100% software defined, and our economics of scale, since we reuse a lot of that what you consume, we are able to keep the pricing very predictable. And so far, we reduced the prices more than plus 70 times since inception on what we're offering. So great benefit for customers. And finally, speed. And all of this is contributed to automation, ultimately results in amazing provisioning and cut over speeds. But Ricardo will talk about it. Let's talk about the next. Accelerate SAP innovation. So if you look to this theme, we see very often what we call the one-way versus two-way door. What we're talking about, right? The two-way doors actually helping customers think differently about their SAP projects. And that's very important to understand, and that's what we hear from customers they like when they hear about it. And it meets reality. The two-way door approach is not just a concept. Actually, it's a fundamental different way to innovate, and is an accepted best practice for accelerating IT operation and projects and innovation. So that's what you're doing. Our customers, what we heard, using this approach are moving significantly faster than the traditional development practice. So in a one-way door, you take high risk, you make a projection, and you need to follow through. You can't have a backup story. You need to do the investment for a HANA appliance or for the project you have in mind to do innovation. In a two-way door concept, what we say, you try. If you like what you do, you continue. If you don't like what you do, you go one step back and you shut down the instance environment. So you pay only what you use and what you do. So this flexibility enables customer to innovate on a faster clip than before, because there's no risk to sunset unsuccessful investments, because you only use what you need. And the instance types family we saw before, imagine you could just test out on a 12 terabyte or 4 terabyte engine, whatever you want to do on HANA with analytics, and just learn the outcome. And after a week or two, say, fine, lessons learned, shut down, now discuss, should we continue or should we leave it as it is? So their customer is telling the story. And then the most innovation we see, and that should be the next slide, it's about innovating and how customers, SAP customers, using AWS and the platform to innovate on a much faster clip. Few examples here, you see, definitely I will pick out of Germany, Delivery Hero. Delivery Hero is running 18 SAP systems on AWS, including 3-tier SAP S/4HANA system, a 3-tier BW for HANA system within the Amazon cloud. And what they tell us is Delivery Hero processing speed have increased substantially on AWS. And whereas before the team monthly billing runs would take 20 hours on AWS, they've reduced the time to 90 minutes with server-less invoice generation with data extracted from SAP HANA. Impressive. The other one is Enel, I mentioned before, utility company out of Italy. By using AWS, Enel has saved 21%, as they told us, on computing costs and 60% on storage costs. And that reduction provisioning time from 4 weeks to 2 days has transformed their business totally. They're very customer focused. Enel is, as you know, Italian multinational manufacturer and distributor of electrical and gas that serves today more than 60 million customers. Enel is using not only for SAP, Enel is using AWS for innovation for IoT and energy management. So there are 2 examples out of that, but there are more to tell on the next slide. About migrations outcome. So how to use automation, how to migrate, lift and shift, or transform. And 2 examples here as well. I talked about ENGIE, accelerating digital transformation journey while reducing cost for the S4 HANA environment by 50%. And they had a need for 4 terabyte and higher in the high memory instance type. And the same is fast retail out of APAC. Changed from 4 terabyte to 6 terabyte instance minutes to support growing business demands. Another is a consumer bank out of the Nordic Sweden, who started on a 0.5 terabyte, moved after months to 1 terabyte today to run on a 9 terabyte. And that's within a 2-year time frame. So this flexibility and agility, and that's what customer, SAP customer wants to see. So let's move to the next slide. So as said, co-presenting with Ricardo Casanovas, from the CEO of and co-founder from Linga. So who is Linga? Linga is a premier partner, so the highest tier in AWS world, is a SAP partner as well, purely focused on bringing SAP workload onto AWS. So 2 major focuses, SAP and AWS. They're doing that since 2010. So a vast experience to manage project any scale, any SAP workload, the legacy as well as the latest, and also more important to help to innovate faster. So, but who can tell more and better about Linga than Ricardo? Ricardo, I want to hand over to you. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Welcome everyone. I am Ricardo Casanova, CTO and co-founder at Linga. And in order to introduce our company, as Thomas said, we are an AWS premier consulting partner that specializes on SAP workloads in the cloud. We do help SAP customers on their full life cycle around AWS, whether if it's deploying new SAP systems, migrating SAP systems to the cloud, or operating or automating those applications in the cloud. We do offer all these services for our customers and highly specialized on SAP. Apart from that, we do also have a small portfolio of products that allow for a better integration of SAP applications with AWS services. Just to give you a little overview about our company, so far, we've executed around 57 SAP migrations to AWS. Our managed services operations manages over 200 productive SAP instances, making it a total of around 1,000 EC2 instances with SAP systems, adding up production and non-production environments. We've been the first system integrator to become premier partner along with the SAP and the migration competencies, showing up our clear focus and our expertise and our track record executing and performing migrations of SAP applications to the cloud. We do have customers around over 13 countries, and we operate mainly in EMEA. And we do have a strong focus around training and giving the right technology skills to all our teams, which are represented in over 70 certifications, both on SAP and AWS. And today, our portfolio of products includes 6 different technology products, from where we can highlight the AWS connector for SAP, which is the ABAP SDK of AWS, or Emory Cloud Backup, which is the SAP HANA backend interface to do backups of SAP HANA to Amazon S3 directly. Just to show you and name a few of the customers we've worked with longer and count as public references. As Thomas said, we have Engie, a big utility company in France, or Lafarge Holcim, which is a concrete manufacturer as well, or Barcelona Hotel Groups, or even Souk.com in the Middle East. Enough for the introductions, and now we'd like to get into the core objective of our webinar today, which is how we can leverage the benefits of automation on our SAP migration projects to the cloud. Till now, and Thomas has been able to describe you all the benefits around moving SAP applications to the cloud and running SAP applications to the cloud. But all customers, whether they are moving to HANA or just doing a hardware refresh, or they want to enable the digital transformation through S4 HANA migrations, they do need to migrate their SAP applications to the cloud. And traditionally, SAP migrations have proven to be complex projects, which are not easy to manage, and that have a significant impact on standard business operations. From our experience at Linga, we've seen that the cloud has one of the biggest benefits that the cloud brings is its capacity to be automated, that the cloud is completely software driven and configurable. And this is what automation can make use of in order to realize these benefits for our customers. And what we are doing at Linga is to use all these automation benefits and try to apply them to SAP migration projects, so that we can help customers execute these migrations in less time, with less cost, and with more security and reliability. So first of all, I'd like to cover with you what are the main benefits from applying automation in general in the cloud to your IT infrastructure. What is the value you get from it? So first of all, there is a velocity. Automation, it's executed by a machine. It's not executed by a human person, and we have the capacity to work in parallel and use the speed of a machine to execute different tasks. So that's the first and initial quick win we get from applying automation. Then we get more security by representing our infrastructure and our actions to be automated as software. This software can be tested, validated, and security controls can be applied into that code. Therefore, we get a model that is proven, that is testable, and that can include all the security controls that we require for our infrastructure. On top of that, we got governance. We got the cloud, and Amazon gives us the tools and services to get visibility and to monitor and to measure how our infrastructure is working and how our automation is working. So we get the tools to monitor for the compliance of specific controls to our infrastructure, and be able to remediate automatically through automation all the different compliance risks that we identify. All these lead us to get a much better reliability of our infrastructure by using testable patterns, proven methods, and best practices. We can use automation that is proven and that we don't need to reinvent the wheel on every migration project. This altogether help us reduce a lot the risk of implementing and executing the migrations to the cloud. All this together, of course, it has an impact on costs. Why? First, because we get a higher efficiency by applying automation, but also because we're able to go fast. And on migration projects, time is money, and the faster we can get a project, the cheaper it's gonna be for us. Now that we've seen what automation in general provides as benefits to our customers, let's talk now about SAP Migration Projects. What we see, the way we execute migration projects at Linga for our customers, is usually we divide these projects into 4 differentiated phases. First of all, there is the sandbox phase, where we do an initial discovery of the SAP application that needs to be migrated to the cloud. And we do an initial build of this infrastructure in the cloud, an initial migration to test and validate that technically we're able to do and execute the migration as the customer expects. Afterwards, we get into the dry run phase, which can be run once or many times, depending on each customer or each project. In these dry runs, we try to optimize the migration process to ensure that we add all the testing required to validate the migrations, and to finally build and polish our migration plan for the production environments. Upon execution of the dry runs, we get into the final rehearsal phase. Here, what we do, as the name says, is we do a final rehearsal, and we execute the migration as if it was a real migration, with the objective to finally validate and check all our migration plan. And finally, once we've completed all the previous phases, we go for go live, and we execute the migration of our production systems to the cloud. So, having said that, it's how automation can help us when executing a migration project of SAP into AWS. So first of all, we have some quick wins, starting with SAP architecture templates. By using best practices and templates that already exist of SAP architecture in the cloud, at the start of each migration, we don't have to rebuild or redesign the architecture for each of our customers. We know we have architecture patterns that are automated and that can be reusable and can help us start fast with the migration project for the customer, knowing that it is tested and it is reliable and that it will meet the requirements from the customer. Of course, one of the great benefits of this is that as we are all talking about SAP migrations to AWS and AWS architecture, it's always the same. And all the migration projects we do for SAP applications, no matter the customer, when the destination is AWS, the architecture of SAP running on AWS, it's something that it's reusable for all the different customers, in of course, including all their specific requirements. Our second quick win, it's around execution of these automation tasks on the AWS cloud. We get this effortless build of the architecture as many times as we want. So especially when we are running on our dry runs, and every time we want to do a dry run, we recreate the architecture of our SAP systems automatically without huge efforts from our team. This has a significant benefit and impact on complex migration projects, where traditionally customers wouldn't do as many dry runs as they would like to, and then they will get undesired risks during the real migration. Thanks to automation, you can run as many dry runs as you want and recreate your SAP environments over and over again without a huge cost on human labor or time. Of course, as we mentioned before, there is the built-in security. All the automation best practices and AWS services available help you implement operating system, database, and SAP security hardening for your infrastructure. This is a great benefit because customers can ensure that once they migrate their SAP applications to the cloud, the architecture they will get in the cloud is going to be secure. And in most cases, based on our experience at Linga, the destination systems in the cloud are far more secure than the original systems on-prem. And finally, we get the governance. AWS services that gives us the tools to get visibility, traceability, and help us enforce the compliance of our SAP infrastructures. The capacity to be able to detect whether we have a security breach on our applications, and the capacity to automatically remediate this check through automation. Besides these quick wins, we like as well to walk over the 4 most common migration challenges that all SAP migration projects face when they want to migrate to the cloud. First, it's data transfer. When we need to move an SAP system for wherever it is to the cloud, we need to move all the SAP data from point A to point B. And here, depending on the size of the systems, it's an aspect that needs to be taken carefully in order to facilitate the migration project itself. Secondly, there is downtime. Every SAP migration implies a downtime of business. We need to switch from the application running in one server to the application running on another infrastructure in the cloud. The downtime available for the migration, we need to keep it as low as possible in order to disrupt the minimum the business operations of our customers. And therefore, we need to do everything we can in order to keep this downtime as a minimum. The third challenge is around testing, whether if it's a technical test, functional test, integration test, end user connectivity test, interface testing, or printer testing, or all the different kinds of tests that you can imagine when moving your SAP applications and migrating your SAP applications. On every SAP migration, we need to ensure that we test everything, or as close as everything as we can, in order to avoid having any bad surprises or any failures on our migration projects. And of course, at last, it's always cost. SAP migrations to the cloud are not easy projects to accomplish, and usually everything we can do to reduce its cost and apply any benefit around cost is much welcomed by our customers. Getting a little bit more into details, let's talk about data transfer. And I'd like to put an example here, which I hope it clarifies what automation for data transfer can bring. As we mentioned before, on the different phases of our migration project, whether if it's sandbox or dry runs, we want to execute over and over and iterate throughout the technical migration in order to polish our migration process and ensure and reduce the risk and be able to test everything in order to get to the real migration with zero risk. If every time we are executing a migration, we need to transfer the full data from the on-prem environment to the cloud, it gives us a lot of effort and a lot of work to do over and over again this data transfer activity. What we've done in several projects so far is we've been able to create a synchronized copy of the data in the cloud for our customers, and by applying automation jobs of data replication between on-prem and the cloud, we've been able to create a updated data representation of the environment to be migrated. And throughout the sandbox and dry run phases of our migration, we've been able to use this template or this replica of data over and over again without having to do all the full data transfer from starting from zero. Then this, of course, affects the downtime as well. Every time we are executing downtime, we are measuring, we try to accelerate all the activities that happen between the stop of the original production system, the final transfer of data to the cloud, the testing and validation of the migrated environment, and then the opening to user connectivity and activating the environment. Being able to automate each of these processes or apply automation to help us accelerate this part is critical to keep the downtime as a minimum. Whether if it's on data transfer through automation, data transfer scripts, whether if it's automating the testing of our applications and our environments, all of this together can help us keep the downtime as minimum during our migrations. Of course, there is testing, and here it's a very important part of where automation can get into play to help us ease the migration of our environments to the cloud. First, we can leverage existing best practices for infrastructure and operating system and database and SAP software hardening. These already exist, and these they allow us to automate all the testing and validation of the configuration and the security controls applied to our infrastructure. And this can be automated in all the different phases of our migration. Of course, we can use the automation of tests to extend those testings to SAP technical tests, interface testings, or inclusively functional tests or connectivity tests from our end users or third-party systems. We encourage to automate as many tests as possible, because automation gives us the capacity to do more tests throughout our migrations, and therefore reduce the risk of any uncontrolled error that we might find during the migration. And finally, around costs. Automation, as we mentioned before, can give us more speed, more agility, and can help us rely on best practices and prevents us from having to reinvent the wheel. And all this gives us more efficiency in the execution of our migration projects, and also reduces the risk and the uncertainty of the migration projects to the cloud. All this has a direct impact on the cost associated to the migration cost. Now, I'm going to hand over to Guillermo Torres, who will guide you through a small demo where we will show how applying the DevOps methodology for SAP deployments can help accelerate SAP operations in the cloud.
Thanks, Ricardo, and thanks everyone for joining us in this webinar. My name is Guillermo Torres, and I'm an AWS and SAP Solutions Architect in Linga. Today, I would like to show you a brief introduction in how DevOps methodology can help you to improve and secure and speed up your SAP migrations and SAP deployments by using automation tools. For that, I have prepared a couple of scenarios that may help you understand better the power of these automation tools. Let's start with the first one, that will be the SAP Sandbox deployment. What this pipeline will do is, based on a previously done backup from a source system, to create a whole new SAP server based on the SAP compliance requirements and SAP and AWS compliance requirements by using this automation policy. Just a brief look at the code that we use. In this file, that it's one of the policies that we use for this deployment. You can see that we have stored a backup from the source system, in that case, a backup from an LLH system in an NFS server, and this server, and this Sandbox server, and the other two ones that we will see later will use this same backup to perform these actions. The scenario that may help you understand this better will be if you are trying to migrate your SAP landscapes to AWS, and you want to first try how these SAP servers run on the cloud. You can perform a backup from one of your servers, on-premise servers, and store that backup in this NFS server. Once you have done that, you can start creating a new whole system based on your requirements. You can test it in a sandbox isolated environment, and you can test it. You can, and in case that you need to change anything on your configuration, you can destroy that sandbox, and using the same pipeline, recover it again. So you can iterate as many times during the migration until you get comfortable with the SAP server running on the cloud before you go live. It can also be used if you are running in AWS and you have a production server and you want to create an exact image of that server in a sandbox isolated environment. Then you can use this pipeline to create it. So what I will do now is to execute that pipeline. And what it will do, once it has started, it will perform some actions that needed to be done to perform the deployment. But first, I would like to show you that we only have two S/4HANA servers running on the cloud, a development one and a test one. And the one that we are creating is the sandbox. So after a few seconds, during once the process will start deploying the SAP server, we will come back to the AWS console and we will see how this server is being deployed. But while we wait, we will jump into the second scenario, that it's a SAP database refresh. A system copy, it's a task that it's commonly done during the year, and in many cases it takes some time to be performed. So by using automation tools, you can schedule and you can perform that action automatically without needing any human interaction. If I get into the process, into the pipeline, and I see the two different deployments that have been performed, you can see that by using automation tools, you can expect the same time for the same process to be executed anytime. So this will help you to better schedule this action in the best window, the best maintenance windows for your business case. So this will happen again if I start the pipeline. What it will do is to iterate again, and what it will do is to first restore that production database in the development system. I said development system, but you may think about a quality system, training system, a pre-production system. The first system where you want to recover the database first. And this will take, as you can see, 20 minutes for the whole process to be done. And it is not just the database recover. It will stop the SAP server. It will recover the database. It will perform the database refresh with the software provisioning manager, and it will start the subserver again. So then you will access the server. You can also add additional post steps in this pipeline. And after this has been deployed, it will wait for the approval of the testing team to do the same in the second scenario. In that case, we call it test, but again, you can think about a pre-production server, or you can think about a training server. You can extend that pipeline as long as you need it. And not only that, we are doing in this pipeline the same process one by one, but you can put all of them in the same process, and the database refresh will be performed at the same time in all the servers with the same timing. So while we wait this server time also to start, let me introduce you with the third scenario, that it's a common one, that it's a kernel update. For that kernel update, you need to wait for that. You need to find the best window for someone to stop the SAP server, change the kernel, and start the server. And sometimes it has to be done out of working hours. So by using that kind of pipeline, you can process this same execution automatically without human interaction. And as you can see, for the whole process, in any case, and this first is for the development systems, it will take less than 4 minutes to process all the execution. But you don't need to think only in the time that it's less, but also in the downtime that you need to perform that action. Using automation tools, you can expect less than a minute downtime for the whole process to be done. So the whole process will start by when the SAP server is stopped, the kernel is upgraded, the SAP server is started. But not only that, you can create the process to roll back in case that the SAP server does not start properly. And after that, again, you need to wait for the confirmation of the testing team, and then you can do the same in a set of instances in production. So in that case, in that scenario, we are performing the the deployment of the kernel in the production servers in 3 servers at one time. And as you can see, as they were executing in parallel, they took the same time to perform the action that in one of the development systems. So this will help you to better understand the timing for the process and to fit it on the best windows, maintenance windows for your business case. I will roll back to the other deployments just to show you a quick view of what this process is doing. As you can see, the deploy instance has been started, and before we only had 2 systems. And now after the console is refreshed, we will see 3 different systems, including the sandbox one. And just to, let me check it. And if I roll down the process, you will see that at the beginning, it only has the root instance. And we are using an AMI, a SUSE AMI coming from the marketplace. We are not starting the process from a predefined AMI, a custom AMI with some process to be done. We are using a standard AMI coming from the marketplace. If I jump into the building history and I open the console output, I will see that the process is creating, still creating changing some parts of the system needed before the SAP server can be deployed. We said in this whole process, everything will be added. All the packages will be installed needed for the SAP server to run. All the kernel parameters will be changed, and all the SAP instance profiles needed, the parameters in the instance profile will be changed and will be adapted for this server to run as you want. And this set of code that we use to deploy that instance is exactly the same code that we use to perform the second scenario, that it's let me check, the database refresh. The only thing that we are not doing is to destroy the instance or create a new instance. We are using the same instance that it's living. If I jump back to do the same and I get into the building details and I go into the console output, you can see that now the database has started to recover. And if I get into the system, this is the SAP S4Dev system, and I check the backup log for this process, I can see that the recovery progress has started for the server. And we are using the same backup for the whole process just by setting the parameters in one time. So I hope this is a short introduction, and I hope this will help you understand the power of the automation tools. Just to let you know that database refresh, as you have seen, took 20 minutes takes 20 minutes to be done, and the sandbox creation takes an hour and 10 minutes to be performed. So it reduces drastically the time that you need to perform the actions manually. And also you will ensure that your systems are compliant. And how can we check that the systems are compliant? And we can use different tools like Chef Automate, OpsWorks for Chef Automate in AWS, to check the systems that you have deployed. We had 2 systems that had finally deployed, the development and test. The sandbox is still being created. And the system says that our systems are compliant. And what is he looking for to say that our systems are compliant? So if we check in the system in the scan results, we can see that we have preset a series of values for some kernel parameters, for instance, that the system will check to decide if the system is compliant or not. If you change it, or also you can check that the kernel is the correct version that you want. In case that someone manually changes that values, the next time that the automation tools runs over the system will put the values back to the desired state. So that way you will ensure that your systems are always compliant with the status, with your desired status. So I hope this little introduction has helped you to see how the DevOps methodology can help you in your SAP landscapes. And now I will give the floor back to Ricardo so he can end with the presentation. Thanks everyone, and see you soon.
Thank you very much, Guillermo, for your time. Now, as a conclusion of our webinar today, we've been covering how the automation can help us accelerate SAP migration projects, as well as to reduce risks and costs. We've seen how SAP architecture templates, infrastructure as code templates, and best practices already existing in the market can help us reduce the risks, build that infrastructure automatically without effort in the cloud, with improved and built-in security controls, along with a full set of services from AWS that can help us through the governance of our infrastructure. And of course, we've seen how we can apply automation to try to mitigate the challenges we find on the SAP migration projects in terms of data transfer, downtime minimization, automated testing, and cost reduction of our overall SAP migration project. With that, I thank you very much for your assistance today. I'm going to hand over to Thomas again.
No, great. Thank you very much, Ricardo, Guillermo, for this insights in how to accelerate the SAP migration on AWS. So thank you very much for participating in this webinar, listening and learn. So if you have any more questions and how automation can help you on your SAP migration to AWS, please reach out to Linga. The contact details are shown, or talk to your next AWS representative as well. And don't forget to ask for the incentive program we have in place to make your migration project very attractive to you. So let's talk about this then. Thank you very much.